Let me turn it on. Okay, should be all right.
Used to sound like a PA system. Now they're quiet.
Yeah, I could turn them up.
Okay, here we got to turn them up. I put the things in my ears. Do they go up?
Yeah.
They have more oomph.
Turn it up to 11.
Back when we first started out, years later, we've worn them.
Maybe we had more room.
We've worn them out. Or we had more room.
And that didn't say anything. You got 60 decibels. Did you get,
All right, 60 decibels. I want to overpower music on the green by when they start doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I did see that. I was,
Okay.
wasn't him.
So I'd like to call our meeting to order. Today is February 23rd. It's Town of Southington Board of Finance meeting at 6:30 p.m. And we're here to review departmental budget requests. And tonight we'll have the Public Works, Recreation, Youth Services, and Senior Services. We'll have the Planning Department, and we'll have the Fire Department with us. And just for the record, some of the questions or some of the way we framed it for tonight was to ask the departments to come forward and produce, what services do you provide? Because it may be very well known to the people closest to it, and it may be less known to people in the meeting or reviewing the minute, or there are no minutes, but reviewing the video. And so what service do you provide? What's one special aspect of the service you want to highlight? Maybe something nobody knows, or something that's special, or something that's new. And what have you done to drive effectiveness in this year's budget request? If there's something you've been working on to make this year better than last year in terms of service levels, more economical, more cost-effective, tell us. And then an overview of the budget request, any new services or any notable changes. So that's kind of how we framed it. And so without, wasting any time, let's get right into it, and let's have Public Works, Highway, and Parks.
And then water pollution control is here too.
And Water Pollution Control, which is,
Well, they're lumped in with
They're
Public
part of
Works.
Public Works.
they're lumped in there. Okay. Welcome, Water Pollution Control. That's one of the most important. If that goes wrong, we're all in trouble. So thank you for being here. Okay.
Okay.
Annette, it's all yours.
Good evening. I have several Public Works related budgets to present to you tonight, but I'll start with a brief overview of the services we provide as you've requested. For the engineering and sewer admin departments, we kind of lump those together. We do a lot of in-house design of town projects. We review plans submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department for approval. We review and approve excavation permits. We oversee consultant-designed town projects. We provide in-house surveying, inspect construction projects. We oversee the MS4 permit. We review and process sewer permits, process sewer billing and payments, provide sewer account information for numerous closings, provide engineering assistance to many other departments, and of course address countless resident inquiries, complaints, various phone calls, and people stopping in. As for the Highway Parks Department, we do winter maintenance such as salting and plowing. You'll probably be seeing that tomorrow and Friday. Can't wait. Street sweeping, road construction, drainage system installation and repairs, leaf collection, road maintenance such as pothole filling, roadside mowing, curb repairs, trash pickup, etc. We do park, trail, and grounds maintenance, pool opening, closing, and all the maintenance in between. We do all the plantings throughout town. We do the Christmas decorations downtown in Plantsville and along the trail the last couple years. We run the transfer station, including issuing all the permits. And we also do in-house mechanical services. We have 4 mechanics who service not only the Highway Parks vehicles, but they will do minor maintenance on some of the other departments' vehicles as well when we can help out, such as oil changes, little minor things like that. Now, I asked for one service or special aspect, and I feel like I've been giving these presentations a lot of years. So when I first started at Highway Parks, I couldn't believe, we picked up the dead animals and things like that. But I feel like we've all heard that. So what I was thinking about when I was, considering this isn't really a service, but something different we did this year, which I really enjoyed. was I was contacted by a first grade teacher from Thalberg, and she was doing a project with her class where they were collecting food for donations. They went to Bread for Life, but she kind of tied it together with what people in town do for others. So she taught them about the Public Works Department, which I thought was great, and they colored pictures and sent us letters, which is always fun. But the guys really pulled together, and they collected a lot of food, and a few of us got to go over to Thalberg and meet the kids, and we brought one of the big trucks, and they were so excited to see it. And they all got to go in it while we loaded up the food on one of the other trucks. And then delivering it to Bread for Life, we brought the food in, and just seeing that operation was great. So while it's not, a typical service, I guess, that we do, I just think it's nice that they get involved with the community, and it's nice to see a different side of them. They're not these big rough highway guys all the time. They actually get really excited to do things with the kids. They always do touch a truck and things like that. And most of the time it's volunteer. It's on their own time. So I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was something really great that the department did this year.
That's a much better thing to share than picking up that animal.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, it's much better. All right, I won't go through every account because there are a lot of them, but I do want to discuss the ones with significant changes. Well, we'll start with the engineering department. This year, the engineering budget is $739,811. This is about $40,000 more than last year, which is a 5.7% increase. Just over $7,000 of that increase is due to regular wages. These are contractual increases for the supervisors. The increases for the other staff is unknown because the union contract expires at the end of June. We had a few small things. Longevity decreased $400 for a retirement, but the boot allowance went up $400, so that was a nice little wash we had there. The main thing I want to discuss, though, is the contracted services account. This account is $32,462. That's the increase for this year. The account usually only has $5,000 in it for consultant costs such as soil borings, wetland delineation, bridge inspection, something like that should arise throughout the year. But this year I'm asking for $23,962 for road condition, data collection, and processing. This is recommended to do every 3 or 4 years. The last one we did was with Street Scan, and that was in the fall of 2019. The good news is that the price came down considerably since 2019 due to better technology. So the first time we did it, it was just under $50,000. So it's basically half that. So I was happy to see that. The other fee associated with this is an annual fee. It's $8,500, and that's for the asset management license, data hosting, and maintenance. That's basically for the program that came with this service. We've paid for this in the last few years, but really it should be coming out of the engineering budget, not really where it was coming out of before. So I'd like to formalize that and get it over into the engineering budget.
So you said the cost was cut in half?
Yes.
What's driving that?
They told me it was because they have better technology. They come out in these cars with all this fancy equipment, and they drive all the roads, and it records all the data, and then they go back and they process it somehow. So I'm not sure if the new technology cuts down their time that they spend. I'm assuming they can maybe do it faster, but.
And then are they the 8,500? Is it the same company that you're?
Yes, it's the service they provide to rate the roads, and then they have a program associated with it, which helps us to determine, to prioritize our construction projects.
So you really need both? Right?
We do.
You do? Okay.
We do.
All right.
Yeah, one of them, the larger fee is like every 3 or 4 year thing. The $8,500 is a licensing fee, so that's annual.
And so when we last did it in the fall of 2019, did it come at that point in time with this, with the management license and the data hosting, or is that new?
No, it did come with it. The first year, the $50,000 included 1 year of that, and then every other year after that, there's the $8,500 licensing fee.
Okay.
It wasn't in this budget.
Okay.
It was
Right.
for another
It's
part
the
of
first time
the
hearing
budget.
this budget.
We're
Okay.
shifting
All
it
right.
where it should be with
Okay.
engineering.
Right. Okay, we'll move on to the Highway Parks budget.
Sorry, can I ask one more?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So just so I'm clear, so last on in the fall 2019, so we're doing it again approximately 3 years later.
Yes.
So this is something we do every 3 years.
Correct.
Or so about every 3 years, okay. So can you just give me a quick high level, what do we get? And what do we see there? So the
Sure.
8,500 is every year. What happens during that 3-year period with all the information that we've gathered? Why is it a 3-year cadence as opposed to every year, every 5 years?
Sure. So what they do is they come out in these sophisticated vehicles with all this equipment in it, and they basically drive every mile of road in town. It records all kinds of data, cracks, potholes, a bunch of different kinds of stresses. And then they go back, they run it through whatever software they have, and it basically gives us a pavement condition index number for every road or road segment. It's from 0 to 100, 0 being terrible, 100 being the best. And that's what we're provided. It's provided in a map form, which is basically kind of compatible with our GIS. So you can see a picture or you can see a list of data. And what the program does is you can put in different parameters like how much money you have to spend, if you want to favor a highly traveled roads over local roads, how many years you plan to run this program, and it basically spits out which streets you should be doing first for however many years you've set up your program. And we have that online now, which this will be our 3rd year using it. But they recommend that you do it every 3 or 4 years because roads deteriorate at different rates. You could have a road that was in great condition 3 years ago that a utility project came through, and now it's in horrible shape. So they don't always, deteriorate linearly.
Sure.
Could have various changes. So it's a good idea to do it every 3 or 4 years.
Does it allow us in that 3-year period, if you notice that a road is deteriorating faster, does it allow for manual input to update the condition of that road, and would that affect the plan?
It does. You can,
Okay.
and then you would have to rerun the program.
Okay.
We don't so much look to see if a road has deteriorated more to go in and manipulate the data, but what we do is at the end of each construction season, we go in and we update those roads to a PCI of 100 because they're brand new.
Okay, and we used to do this. I mean, I'm trying to think 15 years ago.
We did, exactly. We did it a long time ago, and then about 4 years
but not with that type of technology.
Right.
Yeah.
4 years ago, and then I sat down and said, let's be honest, the picking of the road through the Public Works through the Public Works Committee was a little bit different. It was people driving around saying, well, that road is bad.
Yeah.
So when we sat down about 4 years ago, I said I wanted to have a baseline, and then we do things. So when someone calls me up and says, why isn't my road being done this year, we could send them to the website, and therefore they could see what their road number is and all that. So we saw a couple of these companies, and then I actually met with this particular company. We chose this company to move forward. They told us then, they said, yes, we're going to give you a baseline. We're going to tell you for the next X number of years, let's assume you spend $3 million on your roads. This is what roads you can do. The worst roads first, but you still have to do some other maintenance. You can't just do all the worst roads because all the other roads will fall down. So in that particular case, that's how it worked. They did tell us that time, they said, well, times will change. Every 3 or 4 years, you should be getting an update on it just to make sure, A, the road you did came out the way you wanted to, and secondarily, it reshuffles the deck on some of the ones that may have gotten worse than you thought. There could have been a 60 3 years ago, and all of a sudden it's now 40 because of the travel use. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay.
Okay.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, so we'll move on to the Highway Parks budget. This year, the request is for $3,746,422. This is about $76,000 more than last year, which is only a 2.1% increase. We have minor changes here and there, but there are 4 accounts I want to discuss in more detail. One of them is temporary seasonal wages. I have a $19,180 increase here, and that's basically due to 2 things. One of them is the minimum wage increase. On July 1st, it'll be $14, and then June 1st of 23, it's supposed to go up to $15. So that affects this account. And also, I increased the summer help from 4 back to 6. We've always had 6, but we reduced it last year down to 4 because we got 2 additional laborers. But we found that we could still really need that. We could really use that extra seasonal help. Some of the facilities that we took on need some attention. Looks like they've been neglected for the last few years. Also things, like the Barnes Museum, I just met with them and they want to add some flower beds, which is great. They're going to do that with volunteers and on their own, but then, we in turn have to maintain it. There's a new committee which is looking to spruce up the green, which is great, but that's more upkeep for us as well. Keeping up with field mowing, for the leagues every year is difficult, especially when you get a lot of rain. So having those two extra people during the summer would be very helpful. Another account I want to touch on is contracted services. I removed $44,860 due to last year's purchase of 2 leaf machines. Because purchasing those makes it possible to eliminate 2 contracted vacalls. I'm requesting 2 in the capital this year, 2 more of those leaf machines, so we can eliminate 2 more contracted vacalls. They pay for themselves in about 3 or 4 years, but I'm finding that, each year we bid this out, we get fewer and fewer bids. I think we only had 2 contractors bid last year. So having these leaf machines, it's more economical, and I think it kind of makes us safer in the future, if we do have to take this on 100% in-house. I did, however, add $30,500 for a new program, and then there's a one-time fee associated with that, a $15,000 implementation fee. And this is for a work order program, which is actually provided by the same company who provides our road data, the same program. And what we need this for is to streamline the workflow at highway parks and for better record keeping. They let us demo the program for a month, and it was great. It was very user-friendly. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. We have experience with them from the asset management software. They are always very easy to work with. If you have a question, you can pick up the phone and call them. If you email them, they call you right back. So they're great to work with. This whole program is customizable. You can create forms for anything you want, like potholes, drainage complaints, street lights out, mailboxes down. You can create any kind of form you want. And you set it up so that when you enter the form, it'll automatically email it to whoever you designate should get it. And then once the person gets that email and addresses whatever the concern is, they close it out and you automatically get notified that this has been done. I think that it's important because right now we basically have a bunch of spreadsheets with, addresses of potholes and curb damage and everything. And I know that sometimes things do slip through the cracks because someone will call with a pothole complaint. We'll call the patch crew, they fix it, and there's never a record of it. But sometimes you do have to go back and look, if before we fixed it, if there was an accident that gets, a claim gets submitted to the clerk's office, and now we don't even have a claim of that pothole when really we addressed it right away. So I think this will be better for record keeping. It might also be useful for other departments. When we demoed it, we used it in the engineering department to keep track of the streetlight complaints because you can designate that a contractor can receive the emails too. It doesn't have to be in-house. So it was easier to keep track of those issues. I think we're going to use it, if it's approved, for scheduling the engineering inspector because we don't really have a mechanism to do that right now. And really, any department might have use for it, and there's no additional charge for other departments to use it. We pay what you pay, and we can grant access to anybody, really. So that would be very useful.
So there's no user fees at all? Additional user fees?
No.
As many as you want?
Correct. Correct.
Can you use it in the schools?
Maybe.
Sorry.
I can look into that.
It was a question. It wasn't anything else.
I hadn't thought of that.
It was
but,
a curiosity.
So you did mention at the beginning of the meeting that you wanted to know what we did for effectiveness and efficiency, and I think these 2 things are a good example of that. The leaf machines making it possible for us to do more in-house and to do it more quickly. That's definitely more efficient for us. And I think this software would just be a very useful tool for record keeping and assigning jobs to staff and making sure it's been completed, getting that follow-up. Okay, so I had a couple other accounts for highway parks that I wanted to
Over that one, I just wanted,
yeah.
This board is obviously the ones who gave us permission to hire the 2 laborers to take over all the third-party
Yes.
plowing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But, from my standpoint, just so you know, when you gave us permission to do that, Calendar House, Barnes Museum, police stations, fire stations, we now took over all of that. So from my standpoint, it makes my life a lot easier because I don't get the phone calls from the library saying, it's 9 o'clock and it's not plowed yet, or the calendar house, it's 8:30, it's not plowed yet. So I want to, obviously, and that's people who do the job, but because of that, we got rid of all the third parties on that. And that saved us, obviously, for that aspect of it. But more importantly, it gave us control over when these things get plowed. So that worked out very well. And once again, thank you and the council for that because, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, that worked out really well.
It has been working out very well, especially for the emergency services. We basically have someone, sometimes two people, depending on the storm, just taking care of the police department and the fire stations. And we've gotten
Do
compliments
they
from.
have their own little plow trucks or anything, or no? They have nothing?
Is Jimmy here? The fire department may, but I don't know that they really
We did.
they really
last,
use it.
Last year, we got them a truck with a plow. I'm not sure.
I
if they
think
do
so.
with that, but I assume the stations.
Yeah.
I know that we're primary on it.
Yes.
Mr.
Yep.
Chair, just one question, just for the town manager. So when we look at implementing any type of a new software in town, is Jay in the IT department involved in that? And are they running point on what information we share, how we share it, how that's coordinated?
Yeah, he's always in the loop because big into ransom. I was gonna say, I'm on TV, but
Yeah.
we went big into ransomware, cybersecurity this year.
Yeah.
So everything he does, including BOE stuff, he's in the loop with that also.
Okay, thanks.
For the grounds maintenance account, I have an increase of $33,364, and this is to account for court maintenance. We have 15 in total at all three parks. As you might recall, we spent approximately $260,000 on tennis and basketball court resurfacing in the summer of 2020. And one reason that this repair was so costly was lack of regular maintenance. The system used, basically, it prevents the same cracks from returning, but it does not prevent new cracks from forming. According to Hinding, which was the company we used, it's not uncommon to see a 20% increase in the amount of cracks developing on a court throughout the winter. And this is due to the freezing and thawing in New England, which obviously takes a toll on the courts.
Especially this year.
Yeah. But keeping the surface crack-free helps with moisture issues. And according to this company, the playing surface should be coated every 4 to 7 years, but that depends on use, weather, and maintenance. So keeping up on maintenance will definitely prolong the life of that. So that's something I would like to do. And the last thing I want to mention for highway parks is there's a $20,000 increase in the signs account. And this is for 2 flashing speed limit signs on West Street in the vicinity of Prospect Street. There have been many accidents at this intersection. We've discussed it in detail at Public Works. We're currently having a traffic study done to determine if a 4-way stop is warranted. And these requested signs will be like the ones near DePaulo. You've probably seen them on Pleasant Street. I think there are a couple on Woodruff Street, too. So we'd like to put 2 in the vicinity of that intersection just to help slow down the traffic on West Street.
And they're movable things? Little trailers? Or
They're not movable. They're the ones that are dismounted. They look like speed limit signs, but if you're going so fast over the speed limit, it flashes at you.
Okay.
It's very noticeable.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go over.
How did you know
the
that?
Watch it flash.
Go speed past Apollo.
I got to go test them out.
If you
I
go
mean,
really
I've
fast,
never
the
seen it
light-
flash.
the blinking light that goes on.
It always flashes.
The little white light.
We're going to borrow E2's pickup truck. We'll go up, make sure they're working.
Not too hard to find out.
You can call it research.
That's
Can they
good.
take pictures of the speeders as well?
No. Well, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. The snow and ice budget is the same as last year, $810,000. The bulky waste budget, I had a slight increase, $3,000 more than last year, and this is due to being open 1 extra weekend a year. I was asked to, in November, basically have it open every weekend, but because of Thanksgiving, we can't do it all 4. We can only do 3, so it results in 1 extra weekend, which is about a $3,000 increase. Our tree maintenance budget stayed the same at $38,000. The street lighting budget is about $7,500 more than last year, but this is only due to the performance contracting lease payment. The equipment maintenance and the utilities, those accounts both stayed the same. The sewer operating fund is the same as last year, $155,453. Do you want me to touch on some of the capital accounts, capital projects?
Well, we'll go through the capital budget
Yeah.
in our workshop.
We don't workshop.
Okay.
with
Yeah.
that. But if you wanted to mention something, I don't know if Kari wanted to talk briefly about the sewer
Sewer.
budget.
No, nothing in particular, unless you have any questions. Before we turn it over to Kari, do you have any more questions for me?
Just one, well, at least I have, go ahead, Tony.
No, go.
The one that I have goes back to a long time ago when a few of us first got elected. We put in the barcode scanners at the transfer station. One of the things was just to track who was going in there, keep the costs reasonable, and the intent of the service focused on Southington residents. And I'm wondering where we are with the whole layer of accountability on who goes in there, what they dump, and are we still tracking, and at what degree are we,
We are,
keep the
and
costs down? It's all about cost at the end of the day.
we did have that software updated. I want to say maybe a year ago, maybe not quite. Jay helped us out with that. It's the same company, but it's an update. So the reports we can generate are a little more user-friendly. They were kind of cumbersome to get through in the past. We also had the stickers switched to a QR code instead of the barcode, and we changed what we scan them with because a big issue was the scanners. If it was too sunny or raining or something like that, they just weren't scanning. So we definitely have better data now. I think it's more accurate.
I just remember going in recently and I wasn't scanned at all, so the thought was just.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. You should have been.
So, I mean, maybe it was a light day and only a couple of cars, but, and I don't mind, somebody made a field decision that.
Yeah.
But overall, I just want to know if we're still, because I remember a while back, we were finding trailers or people who were junk haulers by trade going in there, and we tried to weed a lot of that out to keep it affordable for everyone.
Right, and we do keep an eye on that as well. I have a lot of, I know they'll advertise, dump runs on Southington Talks, and a lot of those get texted to me, and we'll take note of that name and let the person running the gate know. And so, I mean, we do try to keep track of that. And also, having the permits issued over at Highway is helpful too. Our admin assistant Tracy is very good about checking licenses, registrations. I mean, they do not get out of there without showing everything they have to show.
As long as we're doing the accountability to.
Definitely.
Because it does pop up every now and then, should we continue the service? Now, my answer is always, yes, we'd love to, but
Yes.
we want to make sure we're, bringing in what we should and not what we shouldn't.
Yes, understood. Any other questions?
I'm just shocked to find that those dump run ads, they're charging money for them. I thought they were
Right.
doing us a favour. But actually, is that allowed to, if you were doing somebody a favour, to take people's stuff and put 3 or 4 people's stuff in your truck and do that? Do you allow that, or
Well, we don't.
for free? I'm saying that people do it for free. They're not doing it for business.
No, I'm sure people are picking up, their
Yeah,
mom's TV or whatever, which is fine
Yeah,
if she
okay.
lives in Southington, but if she doesn't, then
If you
then
had a
no.
truck in your neighborhood and you were going to dump, or you said, "Hey, I'm going to
Yeah,
They're all in Southington.
Yeah, had that happen.
yeah.
Everybody who has a truck has that.
Yeah, a free limb or an extra this or that.
All right. Kari?
Okay.
Ready?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kari Williams, Superintendent of the Water Pollution Control Facility. Briefly, what we do at the plant is we take the water from residents' homes, businesses, industries throughout the town, and treat the water for any hazardous material that may be harmful to the receiving waters. In our case, it's the Quinnipiac River. A service that I wanted to highlight, something new that we started this year, is manhole inspections. We're finding a lot of manholes throughout town are deteriorating and in bad shape, and in major rainstorms, they allow additional water into the system that we end up having to treat at the treatment plant. This causes energy spikes, also chemical dosage spikes as well. So we're trying to locate these manholes proactively and before they cause any issues. Worst case scenario would be if a manhole actually failed and a brick fell into the collection system and caused a backup in our resident's home. We have had that happen in the past, and we're trying to prevent that by all measures. Something that we have done at the treatment plant to drive effectiveness and efficiency, the treatment plant is brand new. So we spent the better part of last year learning the new treatment plant, learning pump cycles that we could use to conserve energy, chemical dosage to also conserve energy on pumps, and also not to spend or not overuse chemicals and be able to save on the chemical side as well. I'll briefly go through the budget. This year, the operating or the proposed operating budget is $5,874,899. This current fiscal year, the budget was $5,077,661. This is an increase of $797,238. It's a 13.6% increase. But if you look at the revised budget from this fiscal year, the revised budget was $6,458,318. So in reality, this is a 9% decrease when you look at the revised budget. My goal for this proposed budget was to address a lot of the appropriations that were requested throughout the fiscal year. I wanted to address them in the proposed budget versus trying to request the money during the fiscal year. A few of the appropriations that were requested last fiscal year or this current fiscal year were at the pump stations. I'll briefly run through a few of them quickly. One was at Patton Brook Lift Station for $142,500. Another one was at Judd Brook Lift Station for $148,500. West Queen Street Lift Station, $142,500, and an additional $17,500 at the Old Turnpike Lift Station. So I requested these funds in the proposed budget versus waiting to the middle of the fiscal year and requesting appropriation. So a few accounts that I did want to highlight because I requested additional funds in these accounts. One is the refuse recycle of hazardous material account. This year we requested $700,000. With this current fiscal year, we requested $700,000. The new proposed budget, we requested $750,000. This is a 7.1% increase. The main driving force behind this increase is just contracted sludge removal. The price increases annually on the contract. And with new systems at the treatment plant, they're more efficient. They're causing us to have to do additional grit removal at the plant. And we also have a brand new building with additional new tanks that also require cleaning, which comes out of this account as well. So another account is the plant maintenance accounts. This account is increased from $450,000 to $550,000. And this is a 22.2% increase. We're finding that we have additional service contracts on the new equipment at the treatment plant. We have new systems that provide process control at the treatment plant, and we have service agreements on all of these new systems. Also, we have additional materials that we didn't use in the past, such as magnetite for the new phosphorus removal building, and it's pretty pricey. Another account that I wanted to mention was a sewer maintenance account. This one increased the most out of all the accounts. This account increased from $355,000 to $500,000. This is a 40.8% increase. This account is the account that we do the new initiative that I mentioned earlier out of, the manhole inspections and repairs. And also, we take the funding for traffic control out of this account as well. This current fiscal year is the first year that we requested $1 million in sewer lining. Any year previous or prior to this year, it was always $500,000. So with the additional sewer lining, we're seeing a increase in police needed for traffic control and safety measures. So doing twice as much lining, and we're just seeing the impact when it comes to safety and traffic control. So those two things pretty much drove that price increase, the manhole inspections and repairs and traffic control for sewer lining. Last account I wanted to touch on is the chemical supplies account. This account increased from $420,000 to $550,000. This is a 31% increase. We're seeing pretty much a universal price increase on chemicals throughout the field. Methanol, for example, is used for denitrification purposes, and methanol at this month in a year is probably about $1 more per gallon than it was last year. And trucks loads come in at 7,000 gallons apiece, so this is about almost $7,000 per truckload more than we were paying last year. And we're seeing pretty much the same exact thing with all the chemicals, whether it's polymer, alum, polyaluminum chloride, methanol, anything. And also we got a new building, a phosphorus removal building, that we're using new chemicals that we never even used in the past. So that pretty much drove that that price increase. Those are the only accounts I really wanted to touch on because they are the accounts that have the major increases. I want to say thank you for considering this budget proposal, and I can answer any questions if you have them.
Yeah, just a couple of things, more comments than anything else. I mean, obviously, the new plant has, increased. 450 maybe extra a year, and the chemicals is due to inflation purely, right? Oh, except you mentioned one building.
Exactly.
Used before, yeah. So it's about 450, 500. I think people should be aware of that. Plant, to the extent you did add new capabilities, the operation cost is going to go up,
Exactly.
and I think we've seen it here. So, by the way, we used to joke about methanol costs going up. The sewer committee, we ain't joking anymore.
Exactly.
And I guess you can't get, like you do with gas and diesel, I guess you can't do that, so it's a little different.
I wonder why.
We still have our trucks to remove the sludge. I know years ago we purchased them. They were trucks to remove the solid waste, and we owned our own. Did they hired, or what do we have for vehicles down there?
We do have a vacuum truck where we do have the capability to remove certain materials from the system. That is actually a new initiative that we started this year as well. Prior to this year, we would have a contractor come in and remove grease from the treatment plant. This year, we enrolled with the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority, and pretty much got our truck license so we could remove the grease ourselves and save a little bit of money on that aspect. But there are other tanks where the material is more coarse, like the grit removal process. It's a more heavy, coarse material. It's like gravel, rocks, eggshells, concrete, stuff of that nature. Material that breaks off of bricks that falls into the collection system. You don't really want to take the chance of sucking that type of stuff up into your own personal truck, because you take the risk of sucking up a brick or something and actually damaging the truck. So it's just a lot easier to have a vendor or a contractor come in and remove it. And so it's a lot of material as well.
Yeah, I'm not aware of us doing our own transport.
No, not the sludge.
We bought years ago. We bought the. That might be what we did. Remember the truck we bought? Roll-off trucks.
Yeah,
We're
those
thinking of
we
that,
bought.
yeah.
No, I thought we bought a sludge truck too. We were going to Hartford, if I vaguely remember. It's years ago.
You got me, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe that is the truck that you mentioned, Mark, because they were at one point in time dumping sludge at Hartford.
Okay.
But that was years ago, and all that's contracted now.
Okay.
Been contracted for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You just mentioned eggshells. So we, by throwing our eggshells down our garbage disposal, are clearly then damaging things. What can the community do to help preserve and protect our systems?
Well, we do have a program that follows what they call fog in the program in the industry. It's fat oils and grease. You want to try to keep that material out of the collection system as much as possible, because the grease will accumulate. Well, the grease, anything other than bodily waste or water or like toilet paper, something that will disintegrate easily, will cause issues throughout the system. Anything such as eggshells or gravel will accumulate in the collection system little by little, and eventually accumulate to the point where a line will become blocked and the water will end up not being able to pass through the system, and it has to go somewhere. It's going to go either in a resident's basement or out of a manhole or anywhere. So the best practice is always to, if it isn't waste material and it isn't toilet paper, dispose of it in your trash can.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Running a few minutes behind, but that was a lot of departments packed into a short time slot. So now we'll go with Recreation, Youth Services, and Senior Services. And
Mr. Chairman, if I may
Yeah.
make a comment first. As you will see in the budget, there's a, what I'm going to be doing here and asking for in the budget is actually have a symmetry between three different departments: Youth Services, Recreation, and Calendar House. After speaking with several different department heads, we feel that this is one area where these three departments could work very closely together. They all have to do with dealing with the public for programming, recreation, youth, and the senior situation works well together. So in this particular case, you'll see in my budget, you're going to see a directorship, and you're going to see that directorship over three departments. There's one administrator that's not going to be required at the Calendar House, but there will be a youth service coordinator as opposed to a director, because the director's in charge of doing all the budgeting and doing all the actual day-to-day operations, which works with finance. So in this particular case, we're looking for a directorship for those three departments, and the three departments will have coordinators reporting directly to the director. And I think you all know Mr. LaPre.
we do.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Okay, on the recreation side, I'll start off by saying that it's good to see us coming out of the pandemic. The COVID really hit our department pretty hard, as you can imagine, because we are an in-person department offering those programs. So now that we're coming out of that, somewhat back to normal, we are pretty much back in full force offering those programs in person, which is good to see. Just a quick overview of the rec department. Basically, it's self-explanatory. We handle all the recreational programs that we offer for youths and adults in the community. We handle scheduling special events and functions. I handed out a brochure, a packet there that has a listing of all of our programs that we do offer. That does change frequently. We continuously add things as needed. But that's a quick overview of stuff we offer currently and have offered. One program that you asked John in your email to point out is, I'm proud of several programs in our offerings. But one that sticks out to me since I started as director of recreation was when we started our Camp Rise program. That's a camp for special needs folks and kids in our community. That was fantastic to get off the ground. It is still continuing. Obviously, it took a break due to COVID, but seeing those kids, having that opportunity to go to a day camp is just fantastic to see. So that's something that really sticks out and something that I'm proud of that has started since I've taken over. I can go through the rec department budget, not line item by line item, just a few things to point out. It's pretty much stayed basically the same as last year. There were a few increases in this budget this year. In the regular wages, as Mark pointed out, the director position for the three departments, that increased. And then you'll see in the second page there, they look substantial increases. That is for attending the national conference that I try to do every other year. Looking to do that in the following year as well. So pretty much the budget has stayed the same. Those are the slight increases for this year. Are there any questions with anything in the rec department line items at this point? To point out something of efficiency, when I took over back in, it's 11 years ago after Bill Massey retired, the operating budget for the rec department was $563,000. This operating budget, proposed budget that we have today is $215,000 less than that. And that is due to the effect of, we started a rec fund, and that's with the help of Mark and Gary previously. We moved a bunch of programs out of the operating budget into the rec fund, which is self-supporting. So the fees collected cover the cost for those programs. So that is how we were able to pull many programs out of the operating budget, put it into the rec fund, make it self-supporting. So that's a huge savings. And
that's why some are open to all, not restricted to Southington residents.
correct. We primarily keep them for Southington residents for the programs that we know are going to fill up. But if we know that we're going to have space in there, we'll open it up to folks from out of town. We don't get many, but we do get several that do attend our programs. But that is one thing I want to point out as far as the efficiency goes. So, Mark, I didn't know if you wanted me to touch on the calendar house budgets and.
No, I think what I'd like to talk about is maybe
Yep.
some ideas of
Sure.
where you're.
So my vision.
Assuming it's passed by this board and the council, what are your thoughts for the other two departments?
Yeah, my vision for, if this does pass, I would like to see that building utilized a little bit more. Obviously, that can help out our rec department.
What building?
The calendar house.
Okay.
So we're looking to, our department will move up there. I'm looking to offer some of the programs we do now. We can utilize that facility in the evening. There's hopefully going to be space during the day, too, that currently we cannot offer programs to toddlers that are home with their parents. Obviously, because we utilize the schools for all of our programs currently at this point, as well as some private vendors that we contract with at their facilities. So this will allow us to use some rooms that are open during the day to offer these programs to the community. So, I'll hopefully be working with our new coordinator up there at the senior center to expand those programs as well. I have some ideas for some new programs, as well as with our youth service coordinator to get those new programs going for our middle school kids and high school kids. So my vision is to utilize that space a little bit better, obviously offer more programming. It's going to take a little while to get used to things. I'll have to adjust as we move along, but that is my vision for this position. A few other things to touch on also that our department does. We handle pavilion rentals in town. That's a revolving fund as well. I think currently right now that fund has about $41,000 in there, which is used to some upgrades that we may need at the pavilion, add new features to it. We also handle the scheduling of field space in town, not only for our youth leagues, but as well as rentals for the community. The turf field, we handle that program as well as far as I schedule all the youth leagues on those fields along with our athletic director in town, as well as the rentals for that. The turf fund currently right now, I believe, has about $271,000 in there. So that program or that fund has grown substantially over the years, which is good to see when the replacement's needed probably in a couple of years. So that's a few things that we offer. I just wanted to touch on those. Any questions?
Yeah, Dave, I had a question.
Yeah.
Where do we stand on the youth league or the rec fields in town? Because I know the organizations usually do the maintenance, the volunteers. Is there anything out there that you need above and beyond where?
Well, as far as the maintenance goes, and that's crew does a lot of the maintenance of the
right.
fields. Each league does take on their own responsibilities, does a little bit more. That's up to them. But I know that the youth leagues do work well with Annette and her crew as far as any needs that they are looking for. They do reach out to her. And they've been great with helping out in any way they can. I haven't heard of, there are a few things, and she may be able to answer better, some needs as far as draining goes, if they can be helped out with. But currently, things look pretty good.
And there's enough lit fields?
There's never-
Well,
There's never enough
I know
lit
there's
fields.
never
We
enough,
can,
but what's at the drive-in, those are temporary lights? I
No.
don't know. Those are
no,
permanent?
those are permanent.
Okay.
Right. Those went in about 4 or 5 years ago.
As an aside, the Board of Education and myself will be presenting to you in the next couple of months. With that is going to be to answer some of your questions, because obviously the purpose is not only fields will also be available, Dave, to schedule on too.
Correct.
So you'll hear a lot more of that, because you hit the nail on the head. We have fields, but we don't have enough lit fields.
No.
Also the issue of we have one turf field in the whole of a town of. So you'll be hearing more of that over the next couple of months from both the Board of Ed and myself. Public will hear more of it in November.
Anything else?
I just want to thank Dave for, when I approached Dave on this situation several months ago, it's a major challenge, and I wouldn't have asked him to do this unless I felt, and I know he feels, that it's a challenge that the Southington would really like to take on. He's going to do a great job. The symmetry, every seminar I went to at CCM, the symmetry between recreation, senior services, and youth services, what they all do, the programs are all very tied together. I think having one person and not having three silos is going to really help out everybody. And so, thanks, Dave,
Yeah,
for taking on this.
and thank you
this
guys.
role.
I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
I'm sure you'll do well.
Yep.
Been around you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Now you brought us a little ahead of schedule. Very efficient.
See that? You're already efficient at it.
Planning.
So I should go really fast, is what you're telling me?
No, take your time. Mary Ellen, are you familiar with everybody here?
No.
I am not.
Okay.
No. I'm Mary Ellen Edwards, Planning Director, so it's very nice to meet you.
Obviously, their names are all in front of them. Obviously, this is the Board of Finance,
Yeah.
and I know you don't see them very often. That's sometimes, that means your budget's pretty darn good.
That's a
but-
good thing, yes. So most of you know that I'm relatively new, so some of the questions that you had directed towards us, I kind of ran through Dave and some of the other staff just to kind of make sure that they get the credit for what they were doing prior to me coming. But essentially, what the department does is provide support and assistance to the various commissions: planning, conservation, wetlands, CBA, open space. We answer the questions from the public, any public inquiries on development, preservation, regulations, review permit applications that are submitted to the boards. We do compliance for construction activities and complaint response. It's predominantly what the department does. I think since I got there, I guess I would call it a service, but one of the things that I have noticed that helps the public the most is the pre-application meetings. They have a very strong sense of the need to get these applicants through these boards. As you guys probably know, there's a lot of land use boards, and the process can be a little tedious. So anything we can do on the front side, I think, is very helpful. And they've had many of them since I've been there. So I think that's, a great service that we provide. When it comes to the efficiency and effectiveness of the department, I did talk to Dave a little bit, and he said one of the biggest things that he has noticed was the improved communication with the building department. I think that has helped to get some of those permits out. I know Matt's been helping them a lot with some of their stuff, trying to get the COs out as fast as they can. So I think that whatever shift it was, but apparently there has been something, so I guess there's an improvement going on there.
There's a liaison. Our zoning enforcement officer also works building department. Building department is also critical in the pre-development meetings. So that's worked out. Put that together probably about. All here is the fact that I get the phone calls that you do. Trying to make it, communication's everything. It's everything. So we try and do in the pre-development meetings, lay it out what they have to do, so there's no surprises. Because the worst thing that you can do is tell somebody what they have to do, and then when they do it, you go back and say, oh wait, you still have to do this. So That's what we've been trying to do, and being very modest, she runs those meetings, so, so the bottom line is that she's excellent at it, and she runs those meetings.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mark. But again, it doesn't go on without me. I mean, with just me, it's health is in there. You know, some of the meetings we have, engineering is huge, a huge component. Lou, economic development. You know, it's very much a team effort, and probably more so than when I came from. So for me, that's a huge benefit to Southington. So. So that's one of the biggest things. I think another thing I think that we're working towards is kind of looking at the regulations and figuring out where there are issues and where we can make improvements. I've seen several areas that need some improvements. So that's a work in progress, a new thing, but something we're looking at right now. So, and then with respect to the budgets, they're very, there's really no major changes. In the planning budget, the only increase was to longevity and the boot allowance. And the longevity is because one of the employees breached the years, and then the other one I think had something to do with the supervisor's, one of the union contracts. So there's an increase there. Other than that, there's no additional increase. And with respect to the conservation budget, same thing. There's no increase there either. And the zoning board of appeals budget, there was no increase either. So I can go through them if you want, but I mean, if you have any questions on them specifically, that's fine. But there's really no major increases. So
Yeah, question on the planning budget. Projected to be 483,000. Only asking for 470. It's not that it's bad. I'm just curious as to.
I actually was just looking at that, and maybe
It's a small increase.
No, I
No,
think it's actually the 16,000 carry forward.
correct.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
It's a carry forward item.
Thank you.
So the intention is to spend that.
And that carryover is actually, we're going to the council on Monday for spend that money, so it won't.
Okay. Fair enough. And the second question is, because you're brand new, and when you come into something, job, you always have opinions. Wondering what you thought. Any comment?
Again, I'm still trying to get a handle on things. I do think that the coordination between the departments is a real benefit to everybody, to staff, to applicants, to the commission members, to everybody. That's a huge thing. I do see some issues with the regulations that I really think need some help. For me, that's like one of the things that stands out the most. I mean, I'll give you just a small example. Somebody asked me about accessory structures, and apparently, if they are under 150 square feet, you don't need a zoning permit. So my question was, well, where does it say that in the regulations? Because if you go to the accessory structures, it doesn't say that. So I had to ask Dave where that was, because everybody told me it was in a memo. And I said, well, where did the memo come from? So it turns out it's in section 14, back where they talk about zoning permits. So it has nothing, you know what I mean? So they're not intuitive at all. And if you weren't looking for that, you would never know that you would have never known it was there. So I think there's things like that as an applicant or just a homeowner or a resident, that's not helpful. So I think those are things that we need to kind of start looking at and kind of piece together to kind of make that a little bit more efficient.
Question, actually, just more directed toward the town manager. Just thinking about going to we spoke earlier about the work order software and the benefits that brings, and kind of just hearing what you're speaking about with coordination, just at kind of a higher level, a broad question, but are there opportunities for the integration of different software solutions amongst town departments, and is there any type of a master plan or something that you'd like to see over the next 3 years that you think could really improve any number of aspects of the town?
Two things. Number one is we do have a permit system that's actually working quite well. It's all the land use departments use the same system, so you'll know exactly and a property owner could actually go on and see where you currently are in that system. But that works well together. So that part is, the other part is software that we're already working on. Slowly but surely is, my goal is by December of this year, that we will have all the permits from the building department all online, which is a monumental feat. And I'll explain to you why it's a monumental feat. And you're going to say to yourself, why the heck did that ever happen that way? But normally, if you go to Mary Ellen's office, for the most part, you ask for an address, you'll see the permits that were granted for that particular address. Go to the building department, you ask for 52 Heritage Drive. I have to look in electrical, all over the place. So if somebody wants to check it, there's like 4 different or 5 different areas you have to check for one address. So about a year ago now, we spent the money to put a software system together, which Mr. Baker's working on with Jeff Pooler, that they come in, take the actual paper product, bring it, scan it in, and they're eventually going to have it all under one address. Now, there's a positive of that, obviously, because come December or January of next year, someone just goes on the computer and types in 52 Heritage Drive, and all the permits that were listed on there, whether they're closed or not, will all be right there. So therefore, all the money and time we're spending on all those FOI requests will be taken. There's always going to be someone who's going to ask for an FOI request. That's fine, but the vast majority will be gone. But in the meantime, it slows down the FOI request because those materials are taken away. They're being scanned. So during that period of time, when you hear, well, an FOI request is taking a bunch of weeks, because sometimes the materials we need are over there. So it's a lot of growing pains over the last 2 years. So that's one of them. But I'll ask Mary Ellen, she uses a lot more than I do. The permit software, how is that working out for you guys?
I mean, as far as I can tell, it works fine. So, I mean, I think it is a pretty good system that they have. I haven't used it a ton. It's more for zoning permits and things like that. But every time I've needed to find something, I've been able to find it in there. So.
Okay, thank you, helpful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank everybody back on your team, too.
I will. They've done a great job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Fire Department.
Public safety always comes with 2 chiefs. Last night we had 2 chiefs. Now we have
Why
2
is
chiefs.
that?
We got to look at that budget.
Too many chiefs, not
They always
enough.
Why is that? Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Evening, Chief.
So, thank you for the opportunity to not only see all of you, but to speak on behalf of the Southington Fire Department. But before I do, I just want to really talk about our department. For one, I have a board that is wonderful. They support me. One of our members tonight, Rosemarie Fisher, is in the audience. Thank you for being here. I have a fantastic staff. I've been with the department for 29 years, so I'm going to flip over to 30 soon, and I'm really proud of what we do. I also really have to brag about the person on my right, Eric Heath. He's our assistant chief and our fire marshal. There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't at least talk. We respond to calls together, and I really feel that we really are a great team. So I am proud to go into work to 310 North Main Street every day. So, Mr. Lear, for your questions, we prepared several things to answer your questions. Really, the Southington Fire Department is an all-hazards fire department. What that really means is what we provide to our residents and those who work and pass through it are all sorts of emergency services that range from fire suppression, emergency medical services, hazardous materials, rope and mountain rescue, as well as motor vehicle accident response. In 2021, our department answered 2,376 calls for service. The priority of our fire department is always life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation. In our department several years ago, we really started a program. It's a home safety program called Community Risk Reduction. What this is basically, whether it's from a routine call, answering calls for fire alarms, whatever the call is, or it could be someone who's just looking for having that chirping smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector checked, is we go into the home and we just basically do home safety checks. Just some statistics for all of you. is from the period of January of 2015 until February of 2022, our members checked 2,148 smoke alarms. And during that, we installed 469. Why? Because they probably didn't work or they're older than 7 to 10 years old. Those same dates, 781 carbon monoxide alarms were checked and 346 were installed. In 2021, just last year alone, 519 smoke alarms were checked and 85 installed, and 196 CO alarms and 72 were installed. The reason that this is relevant is that in December 24th, so Christmas Eve morning of just this past year at 3:04 in the morning, we had a house fire, which was a basement fire on West Street. And in 2017, Southington Fire Department personnel actually installed smoke alarms and CO alarms in this occupancy, in this home. And that's what alerted the occupants to the fire at 3:04. All 4 of those people were transported to Hartford Hospital. So, I mean, it really is an unbelievable program. Another thing that we're working on is we're trying, during the tail end of this pandemic, is to get back into our schools and teach our young kids, basically, fire prevention messages. And we're trying to do that, even expand it into the elderly. Our fire marshal, who's standing over my right shoulder, basically took on a huge project that we never really had before in our existence. And in Southington, we have over 1,600 inspectable properties that are from a 1 to 4 year interval that are inspected. And they do a fantastic job with other communities, as with the building department, that really go on and they work every single day inspecting these buildings for life safety. One of the things I really want to highlight that I hope you know is, and I think you already do, is the 3 new firefighters hired under the SAFER grant, FEMA. They started the Fire Academy. It's a 17-week program, February 1st. So these 3 young gentlemen started up in the 2 first weeks were remote, but now they're back at the Windsor Locks Fire Academy, and they're going to graduate around May 25th. After they graduate, we are beyond excited that we will be opening up Station 3 Monday through Friday during the daytime hours that will have a response in the south end of town. And they will be responding all over to the south end of town. This will reduce our response times Monday through Friday day. They will be responding 691, 84, and anywhere else in town that the public will need them. Another thing that was on the news recently is one of our first nice days within the last couple of weeks on Ragged Mountain. If you saw, there was an injured hiker. It's called a trail marking system that really 2 firefighters, their names are Chris Fusco and Ryan Pulver, have been really inquiring us as administrators for years. It just takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of money to really do a trail marking system, which is key to someone who is lost, or more importantly, who is injured. That we could actually locate that person quickly, or actually, where we can access them faster, so we can actually rescue them. That's exactly what happened just a couple of weeks ago. So those 2 gentlemen are to be congratulated, because they really did a fantastic job. Something we've done to drive effectiveness is these career positions are going to be completely funded by FEMA. So for the next 3 years, their salary and benefits will be reimbursed to the town. We have to thank not only our grant writers, but this board here for supporting us, the commissioners, as well as the town council and town manager. They saw the need of what our volunteer statistics are like. The south end of town, Company 3 right now has 4 members remaining in the roster. It was desperately needed. And this is going to help out our community in a great way. We also really looked at our effectiveness of what is our career staff doing for what can we do with still alarms, meaning the staff on duty versus volunteers and tone calls. And we've really looked at that entire response matrix, and actually we completely redid that. Some other things that we did is our budget proposal, as you see, is pretty modest. I believe the overall is a 6.3% increase. But when you really look at it, the 4.6% are the reimbursable wages from FEMA. So overall, it's a 1.7% increase. And, I'd like to go through it with you if you have any questions. But would you like to, is there any questions on the wages, or we can go right through it? Sure.
The wages, Chief, obviously, it includes that, but it does not include raises. Those are in a different part of the budget.
That's correct.
I don't have a direct question on wages, the number, but the schemas that drive them. When we talk about, laying out the shifts and the different options to us, how do we justify to ourselves that the way in which we're doing it is the right way, rather than like a 7 to 3, 3 to 11, the multi-day shift? You know all the names of them.
Right.
But how do we know we've got the right shift for providing the service at the most economical manner?
Well, I think right now, because they work a 24-hour shift, so there's 4 shifts and they work a 24-hour shift. So with the amount of staff that we have is a 7-person shift right now that we can go down to a minimum of 6. And that's what we really do right now is with that current staffing level, we staff 2 squads, which is Squad 1 and Squad 5. Squad 1 comes out of fire headquarters. And depending on the staffing level, that either has 2 or 3 people on it, hopefully 3. And then we have a shift commander who's a battalion chief who's in a SUV that is also out of headquarters. And then Squad 5 has 3 that comes out of the north end, which is at Station 5 on River Street. I think with those 2 squads and with the amount of people that we have on them, are they stretched thin? Yes, absolutely. But I think with all of the support from all of the boards and what the assistant chief and I have come up with the 3 being hired off of the SAFER grant Monday through Friday, that will cover the south end of town, it's a good start. I think I think for the 24-hour coverage, we have to have a 24-hour coverage. And to go any less than a 6 or 7 for the size of our town for nights and weekends, I don't think we should do that.
But rotating people in the 3 traditional shifts, the 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, you're claiming you're better off with a 24-hour shift.
Absolutely. Yes.
Mathematically, I don't know it either way, but I'm just asking that if you really explored different shift schemas in the hopes of.
Well, in my career, I mean, we used to work a 3-on 3-off where there'd be a 10-hour day shift and a 14-hour night, and there'd also be a day shift. And, it just, with the 24-hour shift, the firefighters come to work, they're prepared to work 24 hours, they're there all day and night. I think it's one of the most common shifts, actually, certainly in the Northeast. And it's common throughout the U.S., but certainly in the Northeast. Yep.
Just a quick question on overtime.
Sure.
You have an explanation as to why it's gone up. But
Yes.
Could you go into ended?
Sure, of why the increase?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could see the increase of 8.4%. Of that 8.4, 3.6 is obviously the contractual step raises. So that leaves the 4.8. The 4.8 really is the contractually obligated training for the 3 new firefighters. So once the firefighters get out of the Connecticut Fire Academy by contract, they have to attend more school. Some of those schooling or those classes, for example, are Fire Service Instructor 1, which is that is a 48-hour class per individual. And then also, that's times 3. And then a fire officer class, that's a 96-hour class. That would have to be done off-duty because those people would have to work Monday through Friday days. So they would have to basically they have to have a weekend class. There's all other contractually obligated classes as well, CPR, live burn, rope rescue, and that would be why
Yeah.
we would have those increases.
Appreciate it.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
So for overtime pay, it's up 8%, which is not a big deal.
Yes.
Where do you stand in this budget period? Are you on target?
I'm glad you asked that. I mean, this is a tough year. It's a tough year for everyone. So we might as well start talking about the pandemic and COVID and quarantine and injuries and the wonderful part of people having babies and everything else. So do I think I'm going to be okay? I hope, but you're probably going to see me in the spring. Yeah. Just so everyone's not surprised.
Yeah, we meet obviously the chief and I talk. Lately, it's been actually quite good.
It has been.
But there's an injury that I'm not going to get into, but there's don't anticipate well, transfers from his department, there may be something coming down.
Just dipping into internal controls, we've been talking about it as a board for a while and expect to have a more in-depth discussion when the time is right with finance. But have we taken action on the different volunteer organizations and some controls or assurances over their use of their own fundraised cash?
Yeah, so there's rules and regulations in place. Our board, we have a new board in place, so it's been discussed. So that's at the end of the year. So, we're right in the beginning of the year, so that will be discussed, that will be looked at. Those rules and regulations are in place, and they'll be enforced. Mm-hmm.
How is the cooperation between the volunteers and the regulars now? Has that been improving?
I think it's excellent. I really do. What's that?
Training.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about training. So, I mentioned how long I've been here, but, I think the training really has brought all of us together. So we train constantly together. Bristol has been just a best friend of ours where the new training facility is just over the line across from ESPN. We train there, Monday nights, a couple of Monday nights a month. And though our numbers are down, the training has never been as good as it is, and I think it's really brought us together. Another thing is listening to your staff. So volunteers, when the pandemic was really in full swing, what we really had to do is really, Chief Butler and I, we really had to protect our people, because you need people on fire engines responding to calls. And a lot of them went to a still alarm. A lot of incidents went to still alarm because we had to really protect our people, so we didn't want people coming in. However we could. Major calls, of course. A still alarm is where an on-duty unit would handle the call if they could. So a lot of them just went from a toned call, from bringing people back to the on-duty staff handling the most. What it really did is it really deflated the volunteers a lot because they weren't being called to calls, but we were still training them quite a bit. And what the assistant chief and I did was we listened. And, one of them was like in a highway response or hazardous materials response, we added those call types, and it seems much, much better now than, I have to tell you, than it ever was in my history. So it's good.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a follow-up question. Volunteers and training. What's the average cost to keep a volunteer?
Well,
Just for training, equipment, and just whatever.
So what I can answer that is you have a volunteer that comes in, basically fills out an application, which is obviously free, and thanks to our police department, they do the background free. From anywhere from then going to a physical, to firefighter 1, to gear, to a radio, everything else, when they basically about a year's time close to a year's time before they're actually certified to ride on that fire truck to respond to a call is approximately $5,000. And then after that, it all depends on call volume.
But is there a fixed fee to, aside from the variable of the call volume, is there a fixed fee to keeping somebody on the roster? Are there things you need to provide them, like let's say a physical or a new uniform?
Gear, yeah, sure. There's quite a bit.
Some kind of a cost to.
Sure, there's PPE, there's gear, there's a physical, there's radios.
And that's
Yes.
individual, person-specific. So if I'm
Yes,
on your
yes.
fire department, and you'd hope that I'm fully participating as a volunteer.
Correct.
But if I'm on there, then the town of Southington is paying
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount a year just to keep me on that roster and keep me ready and
Yes,
able to do
absolutely.
the job.
Mhm.
And how is the participation rate? Do we have people with, let's say, a low participation rate, but still requiring that certain fixed cost of being certified and on our team?
We do. We have low participation rates. What we do about that is the assistant chief and I meet with those officers really on a monthly basis, sometimes more than that. It's tasked by the board. We don't need the board to tell us to do that. We've been doing that. And I think that we've seen those numbers increase. Hopefully they continue to increase. I think with the added call volume from what it was, I think that I can know from a particular company for the month of January, just about every single member on that roster made those call percentages. That's what we want. That's why they train. That's why we're here. That's why we serve. So that's a great thing. It's not good. It's great.
So when you had the still calls, as you call it, and you call somebody in and say, hey, your participation rate is only 10%. It's very low. And the response may be, we're not getting the calls. I'd love to participate more, but the calls we did get were at times when I physically couldn't.
Right.
I'd like to give you more, but you have to tone me out more or whatever. That could be a conversation.
That was a conversation in the past. Sure. Sure. But I think now by adding the types of calls that we have, I hear that less.
And I think we talked before of anything going on with bringing youth in or trying to encourage high school students who, I don't like, of course I have a master's degree and my wife's got a doctorate. I'm very big on college education, but at the same time, I grew up doing plumbing and heating, and I'm very big on the trades as well. I'm a bit of both. And I know that there's a lot of students out there that just may not, the need is always, you're going to go to college, do good, you go to college. But for a bunch of them, that message doesn't quite work, and they want to go to trade school, or they want to do something with their hands, and they, firefighting may appeal to that, using your hands, and you could do both. You go to college and you firefight. Are we doing anything for the high school kids?
So recently, the assistant chief and I met with the guidance department of SHS, and already we've met with one individual, with one senior who's going to be graduating. College, he already identified, is not his route. He's eager for May or June to graduate, and he says he's going to fill out an application, be 18. He's going to be 18, and we'll send him on his way, and we'd love to have him. We have another one that's waiting in the wings as well. So to answer your question, yes. We have a commissioner, Commissioner Canute, who is active, very active in Southington High School. Same thing. He's there saying, telling everyone our need. So yes, absolutely.
But do we have like a youth program, like an Explorer?
We do not.
Okay, some kind of youth
We do not.
brigade?
Right.
No.
No. Not that we're against it, but
Yeah.
you see how many here are here. Takes a lot. Not that we're against it, but there's a lot of work there.
Yeah. Trying to think of ways to encourage either the volunteerism or the professional
Sure.
career, one or the other.
Right.
But getting, I see all the, you have a lot of equipment, and a lot of that's appealing, and some days I wish I worked there because I'd love to work on the stuff.
Meet us tomorrow.
But, I look at all that and say this could be a fantastic opportunity.
Absolutely.
From a volunteer perspective, from a youth perspective, and from a career perspective.
There's of the three firefighters in the Connecticut Fire Academy now, I look at it as a return of our investment. Two of those gentlemen were Southington volunteers. We got a return of our investment. We put a lot of time, energy, money into them. So we hired them. They're fantastic. That's a wonderful thing. Even if someone comes in and gives us some time, whether it's a couple of years, yes, we're investing our time, we're investing our money in them, and we're getting service out of them. The community's getting service out of them, and they go to another community, and we've done this numerous times all over the state, and they have Southington stamped on it. I'm okay with that. I'm proud of that, But at least we're getting something, So.
Yeah, that's great. Make sure we're doing everything we can to,
Mhm.
people to come on board.
Absolutely.
Especially the volunteer capacity or
Definitely.
the camaraderie, like the youth.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
Thank
much.
you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The
for doing a great job,
volunteer,
guys.
the paid, thank everybody for what they do.
We will. Thank you.
Support staff. The community is much appreciative.
Thank you.
It is amazing. You asked that question about the employees or getting quality employees. It's MERS.
Yeah.
Amazing how that worked in other towns. Southington as a MERS town, and it's expensive, obviously, but it does give you a leg up on quality.
Quality. We could end our meeting, official part of our meeting. But I think we need quality candidates.